faking a bunch of disorders, or really just the victim in all of this?
You're the reason I was born to be your mom.
Gypsy Blanchard is one of the most disturbing cases I think I've ever seen. And well, with Gypsy now being released, actually next month.
Greene County Sheriff Jim Arnott tells me he believes the 10-year sentence Gypsy received as part of a deal with prosecutors was too lenient.
I feel like it's a good time to look back at all the evidence of what happened with the Gypsy Blanchard case. Who is Gypsy?
Sweet and innocent, and turns out there's a different side.
Gypsy is from Louisiana, and back in 2015, a very dark case got brought to light as her mother, Dee Dee, insisted that Gypsy had a bunch of stuff wrong with her. Some of those things included not being able to walk, so she needed a wheelchair, leukemia, and plenty of other disorders and illnesses. But all of this couldn't be further from the truth. Actually, Gypsy was a healthy girl who didn't need any of the treatment that she was receiving.
Yes, that's her walking. No wheelchair, no signs of distress, not even a limp.
Gypsy's mother knew this. Dee Dee is one of the most controlling mothers I think I've ever seen. When this story actually came to light, looking in the house of Dee Dee and Gypsy, you could see all the medication that her mother had been giving her over all these years. Medication that Gypsy just didn't need.
From the top to the bottom, full of so many medications.
This isn't your ordinary medicine cabinet. It's Dee Dee's personal pharmacy, a large linen closet fully stocked.
But in the spotlight, everybody thought that Gypsy had all of these things wrong with her. That's why it was so incredibly shocking to hear in 2015 that Dee Dee was murdered. While seeing a post like this come up on Gypsy's Facebook page,
It said the bitch is dead.
people were in disbelief, not believing the full extent of what had just happened. Dee Dee, Gypsy Blanchard's mother, has just been murdered. As people rushed to her house after seeing the Facebook post, it was reported that the mother, Dee Dee, who was found stabbed to death in her home in Springfield. It's been reported that her mother was extremely controlling, even going back to when Gypsy kind of knew that she didn't actually have anything wrong with her. She tried to live the most normal life that she possibly could, being interested in boys as she spoke to her neighbor.
She would show interest in like different boys and try to ask me advice on like, you know, how do you approach them? How do you like kiss a boy?
Gypsy's mum didn't like this, so Gypsy went behind her back to create a dating profile that Gypsy's mother had no idea that she had created, and that's when she met Nicholas Gardajon. Now, it's been known that Gypsy and Nicholas were messaging long before this crime actually took place, with Gypsy pouring her heart out to Nicholas.
I need to tell you something. I'm no model. I have a medical condition, so I can't walk. I have a chair I use. Is that an issue?
Why would that be a problem? You are an angel in my eyes. It will never make any difference in how I see you from the inside out.
But in this twisted love story, you guys will be shocked to know Gypsy's mum, who was stabbed, was actually done by Nicholas, as reported in this interrogation when he admitted to the murder.
Okay, I'll admit it. I did actually stab her. I will admit it. She's on her stomach.
Did she scream or holler or?
Yeah, she did.
What was she saying?
First she said help.
And then what did she say?
And then she called up for Gypsy, but Gypsy didn't do anything.
Straight after the murder as well, they both fled, where you can also see that Gypsy has been seen here on CCTV wearing a wig, trying to hide from the police. In an interview, she claims that she had no idea that she would have ever been caught because of this. Gypsy tried to play dumb, like nothing even happened, trying to play it off in her interrogation as well. While being interrogated, you can really see how frustrated the police officer gets here, as Gypsy pretends like she doesn't even know what he's talking about, like she's hearing that her mother has been murdered for the first time.
I'm Detective Hancock. I'm with Greene County Sheriff's Office. Your mom's dead.
Wait, what?
She's deceased. All right. Now, what I want to ask you: did you have involvement in this?
No.
Hang on. Listen to me. What happened with your mom that night?
I don't know what happened with my mom at all.
Okay, you know what happened to your mom, okay? You know exactly. I'm not going to play around with this, okay?
Sir, I didn't do
Listen to
anything.
me.
Now, she also claims in this interview that she had felt helpless.
Did you ever consider, in a public place, if you stood up out of your wheelchair and walked, Dee Dee's fraud would be completely exposed?
I honestly didn't think about that.
It never crossed your mind?
No.
Even though there's messages between her and Nicholas planning out this attack.
Darling, can you please meet me online? We need to talk about our plan. Defendant. Okay, honey. She sleeps on her tummy like I said, but light sleeper, hun. The blank gonna go down tonight, Ruby said.
Gypsy claims as Dee Dee was crying out for help that she wanted to go over there and help her, but she physically couldn't.
And there was more screaming, but not like the kind in a horror film. Just like a startled scream. And she called out to my name about 3 or 4 times. And at that point, I wanted to go help her so bad, but I was so afraid to get up. It's like my body wouldn't move, and then everything just went quiet.
Nicholas's sentence, though, and the judge who was responsible for Nicholas's sentence was done by a judge called David Jones, and he had this to say about the case. Nicholas asked Judge Jones for latency on the armed criminal action charge, which carries a minimum sentence of only 3 years, saying that he had fallen blindly in love with Gypsy. He received a sentence of 25 years, which is concurrent with the life sentence. On the other hand, Gypsy was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Gypsy is said to be released on December 28th, 2023. By then, she will have served 85% of her 10-year sentence.
And Gypsy's parole is expected to begin on December 28th of this year. Now, if you remember, back in 2016, Gypsy pleaded guilty to murder and was sentenced to 10 years, which is the minimum for that crime.
Prior to her prison sentence, Gypsy spent time in Greene County Jail, and her time in county jail contributes to her overall sentence. On a side note, some people ask if Nicholas and Gypsy are still dating. This is what I found on Google. Has made it clear that she and Gadajon are no longer together. He was very much like my mother in certain ways. I'm just saying, for your boyfriend to be reminding you of your mother, it's not a good sign. And going back to the court hearing, imagine how shocking it must have been for everyone that knew Gypsy closely, although apparently not closely enough, as they described that they were shocked to see this young girl standing up and walking around, with some of them even claiming that they had to rewatch the tape a few times to actually believe it.
I still did not want to believe that she could walk when they showed her on the news. In fact, I rewound it and played it multiple times because that's not who we knew.
Remember, ever since from the age of 7, Gypsy has been in a wheelchair because of what her mother had told her, giving her medication and making her go through a bunch of procedures when she had nothing wrong with her whatsoever. With this all being said though, I think it really begs the question of whose fault is this all really? With some people claiming the fact that Gypsy is to blame here, there could have possibly been no way that she wouldn't have known that if she had standed up in front of all those people, that her mother's lie would have came crashing down.
What medical conditions did you believe you suffered from?
Leukemia, asthma, both vision and hearing impaired, muscular dystrophy, and seizures.
Did you always know you could walk if you wanted to?
Yes.
With other people completely defending her, saying that it was the mother and how controlling she was. To get a better understanding of exactly what it was though that the mother did, this is all the things that I have found online that the mother claimed Gypsy had, but didn't.
By now, the story of Dee Dee and Gypsy Rose Blanchard, the real mother-daughter pair who inspired the new Hulu series The Act, is well known. Dee Dee was a perpetrator of Munchausen by proxy, in which a caretaker or parent fakes, exaggerates, or induces an illness to attract attention. Her daughter Gypsy realized that she wasn't actually sick and plotted with an online acquaintance to kill her mother. For years leading up to the murder, Gypsy was confined to a wheelchair, took several medications, and ate through a feeding tube, all at her mother's wishes. Doctors who worked with her recalled to ABC News that Gypsy never spoke in appointments. Dee Dee was the mouthpiece that described various symptoms and ailments. On top of that, since the family had lived in Louisiana during Hurricane Katrina, Gypsy's medical records and birth certificate had been destroyed. Leukemia. Of all the conditions that Gypsy supposedly had, leukemia, cancer of the white blood cells, was the one that she truly believed she had. Dee Dee would shave Gypsy's head, explaining that her hair was going to fall out anyways from the leukemia treatments. Muscular dystrophy. Dee Dee had Gypsy tested for muscular dystrophy, an inherited disease that causes muscle weakness and loss. The test came back negative, but Dee Dee insisted to all of her later doctors that she had it, and she made Gypsy use a wheelchair despite being able to walk on her own. Epilepsy. At a very young age, Dee Dee told doctors that Gypsy was having seizures, so she was placed on an anti-seizure medication. As it turns out, some anti-seizure medications do have oral health side effects, which could have caused Gypsy's dental issues, although Dee Dee alleged that Gypsy was allergic to sugar. She also numbed her gums so that she would drool and convinced doctors to have her salivary glands surgically removed. As Gypsy grew up, Dee Dee said she had brain damage from the seizures. Respiratory issues. Dee Dee alleges that Gypsy had sleep apnea, a disorder that causes people to stop breathing or to use shallow breathing during sleep, when she was just 3 months old. Then she claimed she had severe asthma, a chronic disease that's common in children, and causes the walls of someone's airways to become inflamed. Vision and hearing impaired. The one ailment that Gypsy truly suffered from was a lazy eye and poor vision. She always wore thick glasses to correct it, and even had eye surgery to attempt to strengthen the muscles of her eye. Dee Dee also said that Gypsy had hearing issues due to muscular dystrophy, which she never had.
So why would the mother fake all of these things? Well, it's actually likely the mother had a disorder, Munchausen by proxy, which is best described in this video right here.
Munchausen by proxy. A mental disorder where a caregiver feigns illness in someone under their care for attention and sympathy. This disorder allowed Dee Dee to gain both attention and monetary gain from the donations she receives as a result of pretending her child was sick.
And to further that claim, here's some of the many benefits that the mother also got as a result of faking her daughter's illnesses. They got a free trip to Disney World provided by Make-A-Wish Foundation. After their house was destroyed in Hurricane Katrina, the community all came together and brought them all a brand new house for Dee Dee and Gypsy to live in. Gypsy also got to meet endless famous people, with some of those famous people even donating their own money, and countless charities who donated an abundance of money to Gypsy and Dee Dee. Now, as compelling and nice a lot of these things must have been, I think there's something to be said on maybe her not wanting to give up this stick from all the great things that Gypsy had received. Then, on the other hand, she wanted a normal life, and I feel like that was pretty obvious. She wanted a boyfriend. She wanted to do normal girl things girls around her own age could do, but her mum denied all of that and wouldn't let her, with claims of her mum even becoming abusive when Gypsy tried to live her own life. Now, I know some of you are going to be saying in this video, but what about the father? Where is the father in all of this? Does Gypsy even have a dad? And yes, she does, but her and Dee Dee split up shortly after giving birth to Gypsy, and although the father was a part of Gypsy's life, Gypsy and Dee Dee were victims of Hurricane Katrina, so after the disaster, they moved further away from her dad after the divorce. But shortly after the murder of Dee Dee, Gypsy actually got to speak to her dad in a phone call.
Daddy, I understand that we haven't had a chance to get close in a long time, probably my whole life.
I have a lot of questions, obviously. You know, I'm confused.
The stuff they say in the news is horrible and not true. You know that I love my mama, and you know that I would never hurt her. Just know that I'm innocent and know that I'm still your little girl.
With this case being so old and with Gypsy being released in literally a month's time, I thought it was a good opportunity to bring this all back up, as these two people scammed the whole world. But whose fault was it really? Let me know in the comments on your opinion about this, because I'm generally curious. Myself, I'm pretty conflicted. I feel like there's some things there that Gypsy is kind of not telling us, also hiding behind a persona, but you can't deny the fact having a mother doing this at such a young age wouldn't have dire consequences and is incredibly sad at the same time. With that all being said, this has been the Gypsy Blanchard case. I hope you guys found this one interesting. Honestly, a wild story, as I had only heard about it pretty recently, and I was pretty shocked. If you want to see more videos like this, then make sure to hit the subscribe and bell button so you guys never miss a video in the future. With that all being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.